Welcome back to the Maximum Cricket Podcast, episode number 64. My name is Munter, and I'm joined, as always, by Lugsy and Jacko. It's been absolutely freezing here in New Zealand, but the Blackcaps are off to Dubai, begin their road to the World Cup. We are going to look at some of those Blackcaps squads. Who has the most to gain? Can Kane come back? Just lovely to see Trent, Boult back in black. We have all that and much, much more, including picking a way too soon Blackcaps 11 for the first World Cup game on October the 5th. But first, Jacko, Lugsy, how are we? Because I am personally struggling to give any other cricket any sort of meaning after the Ashes. Nothing really matters.
Yeah, we're in that lull, aren't we? I mean, it's sort of like your time between Christmas and New Year's. You don't really know what to do. You don't know what direction you're going in. But yeah, we've got World Cup cricket coming up soon, and it just sort of feels like those in between days. So you're trying to fizz up for this series, but as you said, it feels like one where we're trying to pick the back end of the squad, not the starters. So yeah, I'll fizz up for it, and I'll watch it all, and I'll love it all. But yeah, right now, the needle's not getting moved as much coming off that great Ashes series.
Yeah, I just found out that India lost to the West Indies there. So just really keeping an eye on things from afar at the moment. But as you say, we probably needed this couple of week break so then we can really fizz up for this World Cup because that's going to come around pretty quick. There's just a bit of other sport taking attention at the moment as well. So we'll get back into cricket very soon now. It's going to heat up nicely for this World Cup.
Speaking of World Cups and other sports, how good was that penalty shootout, Lugsy?
I'll tell you what, it unfortunately made me drink on said day. It's disgusting. I thought, yeah, I'm going to have a couple of beers and watch this. I'll have a couple of beers and watch this football. Then obviously the extra time's going, so it's dragging out, so I'm having to drink more. Then we've got the excitement of a penalty shootout, and I'm at 100% now, and suddenly I'm at max bar. So, yeah, unreal theatre at the moment. And then I never thought I'd be this fizz for a semi-final, Australia-England, Wednesday night, 10 p.m. I can't wait.
100%. It was I wasn't invested at all. I wasn't really invested much into this World Cup until I happened to turn on the TV just before that extra time, and I just thought like this penalty shootout is never going to end. Just when you think that it's going to end, it just kept going. It felt like a little bit of Cricket World Cup stuff. So, yeah, really quite tingly heading into a massive semi-final. Right, should we talk some cricket today? Right, to start us off, fellas, we asked the public to throw some questions in, and we grabbed a couple of our favourites and chucked it on the show. First one to lead us off is around the Blackcaps series against the UAE. Who is winning New Zealand versus the UAE? From Josh. Short answer, New Zealand. But the long answer is this stretch of white ball cricket isn't really about the wins and losses because New Zealand's going to probably, and they should win pretty convincingly, even without some players going. It's more about who does what and which players are sort of ticking boxes before these World Cup squads get named in the future, and obviously the T20 World Cup coming in. What are you guys most looking forward to about the UAE series starting on Friday?
Yeah, I think it's just going to be good to, as you said, see some of those sort of borderline guys sort of coming in and pushing their claims. I think obviously they want to be a black cap and they want to win games for the country, but there's also that personal ambition of a World Cup is definitely going to be sort of on mine. So, yeah, really looking forward to seeing who puts sort of a foot forward to say, you know what, I need to be on the plane to India, get me a ticket to this World Cup. So there's some spots up for grabs in my opinion. So it's going to be really interesting to see who lifts and sort of tries to grab those with both hands and doesn't let go of it.
Yeah, I think winning and losing, it's obviously not the main focus, but I think it's getting close enough to that World Cup where you don't want to get a losing habit. You do want to form a winning habit now. So I think the importance goes up just slightly compared with, say, a series a couple of years out from the World Cup. That's sort of, bit of nothing to it. But yeah, there's a lot of guys sort of have stepped up recently in the side. And I was going through the side a wee bit and thinking like, oh, our best 11 is currently. And I was actually having a bit of a hard time with it. Um, those guys like Chapman and in the middle and even Fennellen at the top. And like, there's a few guys that really need a big series. And I don't know, it's pretty open. So I think there is actually plenty of meaning for these games.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we are missing sort of 7 players, I think, plus Kane with the 100 on. But one of the returns or the names in the UAE and the England squads that I wouldn't
Good
mind
call.
talking about more about is the return of Kyle Jameson, which has gone on under the radar a little bit. How awesome is it to see the big fella back in black, and how crucial is he to New Zealand's chances at the World Cup and Test cricket, etc.?
Massive to see him back. I think we saw with his, I suppose, start in international cricket, he took sort of that Blackcaps side and was sort of almost that got them over the hump into being sort of world test champions. I think when you're that tall, when you can sort of bowl the way he does, he's going to add sort of assets to any side he's in. So, yeah, it is a real shame when you see guys like that robbed of sort of their prime years. But yeah, glad to have him back. Fizz to see him get on the park, and good to get some tests in like the UAE sort of conditions, that subcontinent in India. So hopefully they've got the heaters on in the indoors in New Zealand to acclimatise the boys a wee bit, and they're not too hot getting off the plane. But yeah, exciting to have him back because it's been a long road back for KJ. So yeah, going to be real good to see him sort of back in black, and hopefully picks up where he left off as a world class player.
At test level was really, I think he stood out a lot more. Obviously having a bit of a struggle in that Indian IPL there. But yeah, I mean, the more options, the better for us. And he is a bit different with his height, obviously. I was looking at our bowling attack again, and it's forming pretty nicely. There's a few options there now, and you just want everyone, really, you just want him to get through the series and get through it injury free. Because he, as you say, he offers with his height and his bounce, he offers a bit of difference for our attack. So yeah, pretty excited to see him back on the pitch.
Yeah, you sort of raised a good point, touching about it as white ball prowess compared to his test ball stuff. And sometimes those lines get blurred a touch. Obviously, there's no doubt on his day, world-class test bowler. And I do think like he's definitely not a given in any first choice white ball side. So it's going to be interesting to see how his skills translate, particularly the shortest format. There's a couple of guys that I wouldn't mind touching on just before we move on. 2 potential debutants. Dean Foxcroft out of Otago. He just won Domestic Player of the Year, 25 years old, off spinning, batting all rounder, Balsam Hanny off spin, and young 20-year-old Eddie Ashok, I think it is. Apologies if I got that wrong. Always exciting to see a leg spinner, someone that turns the ball both ways with no Ish Sodhi in the squad. Really excited to see him going. He's only played 2 years in professional cricket, so how exciting is it to get new blood in the squad there, Jacko?
Yeah, it's very good. As you say, leg spinning, we sort of talked about it today a wee bit, getting ready for the show. Just that allure of a leg spinner ever since like Warney played. Sort of, it seems like every country's looking for the next great leggy. We've got Ish at the moment who's a really exceptional leg spinner, especially in white ball cricket. But yeah, to have some talent coming through, and as you said, he's played 2 years of professional cricket to already be sort of knocking on the door and getting a tour. The more exposure these guys get, the better they'll be sort of long term, hopefully. So yeah, almost a soft opening to international cricket, and hopefully he does really well.
Yeah, I think a perfect series for him to play, really. And especially like there's an argument maybe to not pick a guy too young and knock their confidence a bit, but I think as long as you're talking the guy, after matches during training and just what you want from them and just giving them a taste of being around the squad and everything, I think that's important too. So I think yeah, really exciting. There's nothing better, as Jacko says, like you get a young leg spinner in your ranks, and you just want to sort of sort of give him a crack and see what we're working with, and he'll have plenty of time to develop. Sorry, and then obviously on Foxcroft, great. I'm really glad they've picked it because I think it's so important to pick a guy when they're in form. Like coming off the back of that series for Otago, in form. Obviously, with doing a bit with the ball as well, you sort of want every day these cricketers. You want them to be able to do a bit of everything. So yeah, well, confidence is high. Get them in there, give them a crack, and this series is pretty perfect for both of them, I think.
Yeah, 100%. But nothing to lose for these two for sure. And the reason being that these two and a few others are in the squad, as I mentioned, we've got 7 Kiwis in the 100. Just full disclosure, haven't watched a ball. Have not watched a ball of the 100. Have any of you guys watched more than me?
Incorrect. I might have watched less than you somehow, and you've watched none.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's it on? Is it on over here? That's what I was just trying to work out.
I actually don't know. I haven't actually. TVNZ?
To be fair, I might have watched more than you.
Is it on TVNZ?
I scrolled through like the thumbnails of the highlight packages looking for the NFL on Saturday. So
would have been looking for it.
Yeah,
okay.
Just hunting through it to look. Yeah, but I think there is the TVNZ Sport has got some highlights, so maybe I'll cram that.
Yeah, I think it's just for me. It's the, like they say it might be a good thing going straight after the Ashes, but for me, it's not, because it just looks completely different than the Ashes, and I can't even.
It's not the Ashes, and it's not cricket.
The scorecard for me is hard to look at. Like, it's all balls, it's no overs, and I can't. I look at a scorecard and you can sort of picture the game, whereas you look at a scorecard for the 100, and I've got no clue what's happened.
No. I think I saw someone was like 3 for 1 off 20 balls.
It's interesting.
So
literally the furthest thing from the Ashes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did the only digging I've done is I had a look to see how the Kiwis have gone, and not great, if we're being honest. I'll rattle through some figures. Finn Allen, 103 runs at 20, 126 strike rate. Conway, 70 runs at 17.
I'll take that.
Striking at 110. Phillips, 65 at 13, striking at 110. Colin Munro, he's averaging 16, striking at 122. Darren Mitchell's had the one bat, I think, 26 runs, striking at 118. And Ish Sodhi and Adam Milne both have 2 wickets apiece. So not a lot there, but I don't know what any of it means. So yeah. Should we talk about
zero? There's zero context to any of those stats. So that's
just numbers.
Yeah. Suppose
what
it's
sort
nice
of crust are we talking the boys getting that for that, you reckon?
Six figures. 6 figures.
Jeez.
I reckon. Give or take.
Tell you what.
Depends on the higher echelon. I'm not too sure.
6 figures, I'll probably pay to go and play in it, but
I mean, you pay to play club cricket, so
yeah. I do.
Right, should we talk about this?
A debtor to the club currently, $3.
Most people are. If you're not a real clubby, if you're not actually in debt, like most players are actually owing, or get your subs.
Yeah, pay your subs, but not all of it. Leave $3 there just to keep guessing.
What's it like when you've got a Canterbury contract and still paying to play club cricket? What's sort of going on there?
Yeah, you're sort of getting $50K for your summer job, so it all nets off.
A lot of a lot of. I don't want to name names, but I've heard of a lot of Tiger cricketers not expecting to pay any sort of subs. So you're doing well.
I mean, I've been part of, like, I know that guys have just played one game and given their subs over. So
some better blokes up north.
I suppose it probably depends how much extra cash you got in your pocket, doesn't it?
It's funny you say that, Jacko, because I know blokes that have played the whole season and not paid any subs. So
yeah. Oh yeah, I know plenty that are doing that.
100%.
Wonder if clubs are accepting Afterpay nowadays.
Yeah.
I actually seen, no, I seen a club, a Dunedin club, they had PayWave, which I feel like was like, it was groundbreaking
Yeah.
enough for a
Oh,
Facebook post.
yeah.
Hard to catch guys out when they can just whip
Yeah.
out their card. Like back in the day, it was just like, oh,
Mm,
sorry, no cash on me. Um,
yeah.
yeah, tough when you got no
Yeah.
card.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Should we talk about the England white ball squad or the Blackcaps tour to England that's following, because it's a little bit more depth to it. So the squads for the 5 T20s and the
But
5
juicy.
one-day internationals in England over the end of August and most of September. I
It's quite a
believe this is
series,
the
just
last.
quietly.
Yeah, it's quite a lot longer than I
It's a
thought, and
big, yeah,
it's
it's a big series. Well,
the last bit of
it's a
cricket
World Cup
before.
real build-up series. Those last
Yeah.
few
Yeah,
ODIs.
yeah, and you can sort of tell by the one-day team they named. It looks pretty strong. Like it's not. I don't think it's going to be too dissimilar to the World Cup squad they named. I'd say the biggest talking points is obviously the return of Trent, Boult, and as well as the very real possibility that Kane Williamson will be back. For the footage of the great man at training was very nice to
Yeah.
see. Should we start with Trent Boult? Just some. I'm just going to rattle off some stats for you. As of late, this is World Cup games. 39 wickets in 19 World Cup games at 22. Only Mitchell Starc has more wickets in less games. He has 49 at 15. His Major League Cricket stats, which is his last sort of tournament,
Yes.
22 poles at 10 with an economy rate of 7 in just 8 matches. The next most wickets in that tournament was 11 poles. He's still the 7th ranked ODI bowler in the world, and he hasn't played an ODI since September 11th, 2022. So basically a whole year off, and he's still ranked in the top 10. So it's pretty fucking good. Pretty fucking good. So how valuable is Boult going to be with that new nut?
No, I think this was always the plan. I think TMC would be leading rights in the street if he wasn't in this squad, and I don't think I'd be there, but I'd be encouraging it sort of on all forms of social media. But yeah, he was always going to play it and get ramped up for the World Cup. So yeah, it's great to have him back. As you said, those stats, he's second only to Stark in World Cups as a seamer. So
I don't know if I need to very good player. Yeah, I don't think I need to add too much for what you said there. Literally, our spearhead, and I think our best ODI bowler by a fair way. So, as long as he gets through these games feeling good, injury free, I'll be happy days with that. And honestly, if he didn't play a game leading up to the World Cup, I'd still have him in our side, still lead our attack. So that's how highly I value him at the moment.
100%. And I think he's going to really boost our sort of new ball threat, just because we've really struggled taking wickets in the power play as of late. But the big news, obviously, is Kane training. Now, we had some inside information from a young Jackson Latham, and this question is pretty self-explanatory, but that first game, will Kane be back?
yeah, he's playing. He's playing. I can't see him not. This is his last World Cup, like last opportunity to play. I think he'll be doing anything to be on the plane to India first of all. And I don't even know how many games. I think we've discussed you'd take him for just the final if he said he was, came in the wheelchair and whipped it off and walked out into the middle. We'd take him. So that we're even talking he could play game one's huge. But yeah, I mean, just as long as he's on that plane and there's a chance he plays sort of even 2 or 3 leading into potential semis, I think puts us in a really good place because potentially his last sort of crack at a World Cup. So you'd love to see him sort of get it and be back in form by the time games start to matter as well. Would be sort of dream come true.
Jacko was obviously on this. Jacko, obviously, yeah, good player. Jacko was on this very early, wasn't he? So I don't. Yeah, he had the tip early that he'd be there. Once again, honestly, same boat as Trent. Like as Jacko said, if he said, "Look, boys, it's final only or it's one game only," I mean, we just have to take it. He's arguably our greatest batter ever, and he'll do everything he can to be there, and we'll give him every opportunity to be there. So exciting news, really. To think he could have the whole World Cup's insane, but yeah, exciting news.
Yeah, 100%. He's going to look very nice in black indeed. Interesting that both you guys sort of touched on that Boult and Kane, doesn't matter what sort of lead up, if they're available, they're playing. I'm interested in the other end of the spectrum. Who needs a performance to solidify their spot in that first 11, do you think?
I mean, I feel like there's a couple of guys sort of potentially under the pump. One's probably like a Southey or even like a Lockie Ferguson. Probably need to see a bit of form going in, because I think sort of the way they'll pick the side is you're going to have Santner and Ash will play every game. Boult obviously plays every one, so you've probably got another spin bowling all rounder, Milne, Ferguson, Matt Henry, and Southey all sort of vying for just a couple of spots. So I think there's some seamers there to sort of need to put some performance on the board, and I think potentially as well, I wouldn't mind seeing some runs out of Finn Allen just at the top in international cricket. I think
I had him.
Like we've sort of seen the star powers there and the flashes have been there, but I think he's sort of coming up on double digit international games now. So I think a bit of form going into the World Cup will be really, really crucial. I think playing well against seam bowling in India is going to be that real crucial time to get off to a flyer and utilise that power play with the stick. So that's probably who I think needs to see sort of some performances leading in.
Yeah, I think most of your guys actually just of what I've got marked down there, Jacko. I think the seam is right up for grabs. That I think Henry and Boult will play. I'd want Ferguson to do well because I just love having his extra pace, but probably him or Milne are up for grabs there. Southey, as you say, I think by no means is the first pick in this ODI side. I think our middle order is pretty tasty at the moment and pretty solid. There's sort of a niche. I think Chapman made a real case for his place in the side, and if he had a really big series or two here with England, like he could make a strong case to go there. So I actually think we've got some. And Finn obviously has by no means secured a spot to me, especially if we're looking at a Will Young and Conway maybe opening if Kane's at 3. So there's plenty up for grabs, but I do think there's plenty of depth there at the moment. I'm starting to get quietly excited as I look at our side a wee bit more.
Yeah, I think your number 6 spot's like the most up for grabs. I think now with Bracewell sort of out of the World Cup, for me it sort of felt like we sort of had at least 4 through 7 locked in, and then obviously wherever Conway's going to bat in the top 3. So it sort of feels like we had a lot of the team locked in until Bracewell went down. So as you said, there's your Chapmans, even a Dean Foxcroft, a Cole McConchie in these tours could really sort of push a place to be included in that squad to be that all-rounder sort of spinner option to bat at 6. So there's some gains to be made for some of those fringe guys. I don't think all sort of 15 tickets on the plane are booked yet.
No. Okay, should I give you? I'll give you my Caps 11 for that first game, and then see if you can talk me into some other selections if you please. So obviously we'll start with obviously Conway up top. I'm going to give Finn Allen the benefit of the doubt that he's going to get enough runs and he's the incumbent to open. But you're right, he's under pressure, and I think we're at the point where potentials doesn't matter anymore because we're right on the door the door of a World Cup, so it's now or never. So I think potentially a Will Young could come in if that doesn't work out. Kane, as we talked about, he's going to be there. He's your 3. Daryl Mitchell, who was doing well at 3, he's going to slot in at 4. for me. And Tom Latham's going to go to his preferred 5, which he's done quite well. Now, this is where it gets a little interesting. And I think if Bracewell was available, I think he's obviously a must in that 6 or 7. So I'm going to go Glenn Phillips as your big finisher and potentially another sort of bowler. But I think Chapman could come in there. So I think that 6 spots up for grabs. But I'm going to go Phillips. I'm going to go Santner at 7. I'm going to push him a little higher because I think that his batting is coming on. I think they love going sort of Santner at 7. Ish Sodhi, Matt Henry, Trent Boult, they sort of picked themselves, and I think Jacko brought up a good point that last seam is up for grabs. So I'm going to go Lockie Ferguson for now, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a Adam Milne. Lugsy, what did you think of that 11? And would you make any changes?
Yeah. You've gone very similar to me actually. I was just order maybe slightly different, just depending on where you want to put Conway and if you have Kane playing that game 1. I think as we've talked about a lot, I mean he probably gets more coverage than anyone, but I think Finn's he'll need runs this series. I think there's still enough time where if he has another poor series or it's sort of not a standout series, I think he'll be in a bit of trouble, especially if they're gonna open with Conway and Young. I think they're quite a nice combo. But Young's by no means a Sean though either, is he? So I think as I say, I think our strength's actually right in that middle order. It just depends how much power you want to go. I think Phillips and Chapman will both actually get their opportunity. So I guess whoever has the biggest series going, this series will really matter to those last spots. Ferguson, I think, will get the chance personally. And then, Boult, Henry. I think our bowling's pretty strong. There's just that one posse up for grabs there. So as I said before, when you go through the side, I think there is a bit of talent coming through, but still, a couple of spots up for grabs.
Jacko, what's your sort of 11? Any sort of changes you'd make?
I don't know why I dropped it out there and didn't hear the 11, but the screenshot you sent through really sparked something I've been thinking about today, which is why is Nichols in the squad? Because he might open at the World Cup. Don't look now, get him back at the top.
I was thinking that. I was thinking like, what place is he? What's the reasoning behind him? And I think it's safety. I think it's I think there's a little bit of assurance that he'll just do it. Like if all the chips are down and none of the options are right, I think you could just slot in Nichols, sort of like break their glass of an emergency sort of thing.
And I mean, in all seriousness, I think potentially I think the opening spot with Conway is massively up for grabs. And then I think what happens with Kane at 3 or not probably just depends on his health. And I mean, I'll say he's not healthy for game 1. Let's go worst case, and I'll probably slot Darryl up to 3, and then I'll have maybe slot Darryl up to 3, have sort of a Phillips Chapman. Maybe you're pushing Tom up to 4, Phillips Chapman 5, 6. But I suppose it just depends how deep you want to go. I think that's a really, really strong side, and it probably just depends on if you want to go sort of someone like a Neesham as opposed to a Ferguson and give you that bit more batting. But it's going to be either way, and I think there's a lot to be said for what happens with that last bowling option. As Crom said, I think Matt Henry's world class, especially with the new ball and white ball cricket. So I think it's only really sort of when you lay it out like that, it feels like there's sort of only 2 or 3 question marks left now, and hopefully Finn can whack it and put one of those to bed.
Yeah, 100%. Righto, real quickly, one word answer. Where do they finish in the World Cup? Way too early prediction.
3.
Third?
Yep.
Lugsy?
I just want to say champions.
Yeah.
Yeah, semi-finalists. Semi-finalists.
Yeah, I think they're the fourth or fifth best side. So I think just because it's in India, but I think if they can get in the semis, then you just don't know. So I'm gonna have them at fourth. Safely pick. Right.
It would be a bloody good effort again to go from champions, two finals and then another semi-final. It'd be pretty consistent for the team. So, yeah, let's hope we can go one better though.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be exciting. A couple of months away. Right, our final section of the podcast. Going to do a wee guess the player in 10 questions, past or present. Although this close kind of gives it away. So this is a question that's come in from a listener. Didn't write his name, unfortunately. But he'll know who he is. The question is, what player doesn't get enough love because they play for an associate nation? So it kind of gives it away that they are of an associate nation. We talked off air. What is an associate nation? Basically, West Indies down. It's going to get me. So think about that however you like. So whenever you're ready.
Okay. Does
he play for the West Indies?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask too.
No.
Oh, okay.
Do they play for a European team?
That's a good question. They do.
Ooh. Okay. So we've got
Has this player played Test cricket?
No.
Ooh, okay.
No Test cricket. So we're thinking Scottish then, Cromie?
Yeah, I was thinking, what do we got? What do we got left here without the Irish? Where's this question came from? As he gave us address, is it?
Yeah. What time did that question come through? NZ Standard.
I'm not sure. I confirm it didn't come from old Pucky boy.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go. Are they a Scotland player?
They are not a Scottish player.
Yeah.
Ooh.
What nations are we dealing with here, Jacko? We need someone with better geography than myself.
I know. European, but
I feel like you've narrowed it down pretty well. You should know what country they're from by now, if you think about those questions.
Oh, is it Netherlands? Is he playing for the Netherlands?
Yeah.
He
does play for the Netherlands. So that's halfway. That's 5.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Now we're sort of talking. Have they played domestically in New Zealand? So not for a domestic team, but have they played cricket in New Zealand?
Oh, he's pinned it. That's yes, they have. That's 6.
Yeah. Is it Logan Van Beek?
It is Logan Van Beek. Very, very good player.
And I believe that. Yeah, I believe that question came through from Al Van Beek. So interesting.
Oh shit! Yeah, very, very good.
He's actually been on He's been on the New Zealand radar for a long time, mate. He's
a very good player.
Consistent domestic player for a while there.
Yeah. Played a bit in Canterbury, didn't he, Jacko? Played a bit in Canterbury. Plays in Wellington
from
now.
Canterbury.
Always does well.
For Wellington a few years ago. Yeah, I think he's just like. I think it just shows probably that that skill level of where domestic cricket is in New Zealand is actually at a really high point, because if these guys can go over and actually perform in international cricket, it's probably not there's a lot of guys that will have that international skill set, but obviously there's he's just probably played in the Boult, Southey, Henry era, and unfortunately that's sort of the way the chips fall sometimes. But
one of the great super overs. One of the great super overs, 30,
Yep.
30 with the bat, and then Boult took 2 wickets for 8 runs. The reason I brought up the Netherlands,
I don't think you
was there are reports that the Netherlands are going to join the T20 Blast in the domestic one-day circuit in the UK. How are you out or not out on associates joining domestic cricket?
I don't hate it, to be honest. I think there is some room for it, because I think they would probably have a similar side to a franchise level team with sort of 4 international players plus sort of the top level of domestic talent in England. I don't think that the talent gap's not there, and if it gains exposure for those Netherlands guys, it's going to grow the game. So just let Logan know, though, that we're only going to put this bit up in the Patreon, so he must subscribe to listen in.
Or join the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the important thing there would be, and he is welcome to join the show actually for an interview. But yeah, I think the important thing would be is if it can get them playing more and more cricket and together as a team, so they actually can train together more full time as well. I think that could be important. And as you say, just exposure as well, Jacko, and just playing regular cricket together. I don't know what the pushback would be. I'm sure there's an argument to why not as well, but to me, it seems like a great idea to get some of these smaller nations into playing a game.
All you do is you sell every English club side, you get a tour to Amsterdam in the middle of a T20 Blast, and I don't think any of them say no.
100% well summed up. I won't add to that because I'll wrap up before the timer runs out. That is us for another week. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks to the listeners for sending in some questions, leaving ratings and reviews. It helps us grow. If you want to support us even more and get some extra content along the way, check out the Patreon. For just a coffee a month, you get early access to the main pod, 1 extra podcast a week out every Friday. And hopefully at some point you will get special access to the Discord when I get off my ass and sort it out. Last week we discussed the 2019 World Cup in depth. So if you enjoy people dealing with their trauma, then you're going to enjoy the Patreon. So Lugsy, Jacko, thanks as always, and we'll catch you boys next week.